damnation will be upon thee, as you fuel my ever-growing rage. But for now, settle down and take a sip of Daddy's nurturing teas, as I tell you a story.
The story of a man called Grave. Who's this Helsing-looking motherfucker lugging around a coffin filled to the brim with all kinds of weaponry? Why? Well, apparently this evil company called Millennion has taken over the city with a mysterious drug called Seed which turns people into zombies somehow. And because of that, Grave goes around guns blazing in the most literal fashion to pretty much just kill everyone even mildly involved. And that's also exactly what you do. Mash button and shoot everything in sight. No puzzles, no deviations, no bullshit. Just straight up gun bang. Story and presentation wise though, it feels a bit like some type of lost Suda 51 game. I mean, it boasts hyper stylized but somewhat realistic graphics, but then also has a fucking PS1 ass Final Fantasy 7 ass anime ass girl as well. And I fucking love that shit like you wouldn't believe. What really blew me away though is how good the presentation and directing really are. Probably due to it being produced and designed by many folks hailing from anime production. These include the likes of Yasuhiro Naitao of Trigun fame, and Kosuke Fujishima, who's done a shit ton of shit including designs for the Tales of series. And it really fucking shows. The entire game just has that neo-noir vibe about it that titles like Killer is Dead also have. Where the blacks are so black they nearly turn blue, the contrast is turned all the way up to 11, and every angle looks like a stylish, well-choreographed set piece. If this was a show, I could totally see myself watching it. Which is why it was subsequently turned into one, following the plot of the game and somehow managing to turn it into an actual plot. There's character development, long conversations, background info regarding the setting, and plenty of drama involving girl, none of which are featured in the game at all. Well, shit definitely looks and sounds cool, being that it's in its OG Japanese style and the soundtrack is ball-bouncingly amazing. As far as the in-game storytelling goes, it's very fucking bare bones and only seems to be an excuse to make gameplay happen. And happen, it most certainly fucking does. I'm gonna go over the gameplay a bit more in-depth in just a bit, but just to set the tone, I'd like to show you how the first actual level starts. Yeah, as I said before, straight up gun bang. Literally everyone and everything, from entire hordes of parked cars to fucking attack helicopters, can be blown to shreds, and you'd be well off doing so as the game essentially rates you for it by way of stringing together combos of destruction. You do this by simply bashing square button ad nauseum while Grave locks onto everything within frame automatically. You can't really run and gun all that well, and you're pretty much just a quick turning turret stood still in the middle of a level. It would be easy to say that there's no strategy to any of this and that the game is just really fucking stupid. And you would be right. The only thing that kinda spices shit up is the fact that Grave has not one, but a whopping 2 whole health bars. The red one being your regular old health and the blue one being your shield. As long as said shield bar is full, it'll take all damage for you. But should it run out, your health will deplete in a heartbeat. So to counteract that, your blue shield juice replenishes automatically during the periods in which no damage is taken. This creates an environment where you need to kill dudes as fast and efficiently as possible by rapidly dancing your way through a stage, dodging missiles, and quick turning a lot as to not die, and to rack up some sweet ass points that build up a type of special meter with which one can unleash an attack worthy of God himself to clear an area entirely. And that's it. Nothing more to it. Just go from level to level, shoot baddies, and flail around like a fucking spastic on steroids. 6 out of 10. Pretty decent. Worth it for collectors. This has been Foco Thundernips from IGN, signing off. Gungrave is a button masher in the most literal sense. And I honestly kinda love it. The way the beefy sound effects amplify the debris spreading FPS crippling explosions is almost impossibly cathartic. And sure, it's style over substance all the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the substance that is there isn't all bad. A tad repetitive perhaps, and I could easily see someone carpool tunneling the fuck out over this shit, but it's also only about 2 hours long, so it doesn't actually last anywhere near long enough for the complete fucking onslaught of audiovisual garbage and button mashing to become too big of a problem. Plus, to make up for the simple mechanics, they at least did a decent enough job designing interesting stages based around the idea of mashing square. One of those often tedious sections where you're stuck on an elevator having to fight wave after wave of dudes, for instance, actually makes sense here considering you're basically a fast as fuck tank, and the same goes for the corridor-like levels with the generic spawn doors and arena battles as well. Basically, because of how well equipped you are to deal with tedious shit
Otherwise reserved for padding out levels.
said tedious shit just becomes incredibly fucking fun. Oddly enough, it's that because of this design, the game almost starts to feel like a type of on-rail shooter. I mean, you rarely ever move and shoot at the same time, and with what little movement you have left being as limited as it is, you could just as well have been on rails. Which might also be the game's biggest issue now that I think about it.
The controls!
Not the layout itself per se, it's more so just the overall feel of things that's a little bit weird. You see, the moment you stop shooting and decide to smell the roses, the game absolutely fucking shits itself. You can't turn the camera, Grave walks debilitatingly slow, and quite a few times I totes found myself clipping on railings and staircases. Objects that look like they would be perfectly jumpable in any other game never really are. It's just a shame, honestly, as a more fluent Max Payne-like moveset would have really made navigating the levels feel like less of a chore, as now it just seems like the lines connecting the dots were haphazardly drawn by a drunk person.
I absolutely hate myself for having said chore instead of chore. I am not Swedish. This shouldn't have happened. Kill me now, fam.
Something else that also stuck out to me like a tumor on my prostate is that locking on is a tad awkward as well. This might very well be a camera or render distance issue, as there are some moments where it's really hard to tell what exactly you're shooting at, leading to occasionally pecking bullets into a car without being able to see if that was even the case or not. But a very likely suspect in this case is that Grave seems to only lock on to shit properly within a certain distance. It's never too bad, I suppose, but sometimes they do actually manage to fucking place you in a position that just isn't close enough right at the start of a big fucking fight, effectively creating a Mexican standoff with only nearsighted people. It's a big deal especially during a couple of the boss fights, where they flesh that levels designed around simplicity thing I mentioned earlier right down the fucking shitter. All of a sudden they want you to dodge, to run around, to max the pain away, and you simply can't do that with the navigational controls and camera being this fucking rigid. The only way I could get around this was by holding on to my super duper special move so that I could kill the boss without simply belly flopping around like an edgy goth penguin. Which also rubbed a load of sand in my vagina, considering I just got hyped up less than a second ago by that kick their asses message the game so eagerly gives you. And yeah, sure, these are all minor complaints, but when the entire MO of a game is just to look cool, and having controls that could potentially prohibit that in any way is probably a bad. To sum up Gungrave, I'm going to recite a bit of unused script that was supposed to slide into the segment where I explained the basics of the gameplay.
It went as follows.
In between mission, Grave goes back to base, where you can chat up with your PS1 Animu Bay and Dr. McDoctorman, save your progress, and attend to some banging tunes. In any other game, this would also be where one can exchange points for upgrades. But fuck you, this isn't your dad's shoot 'em up, this is Gungrave.
I couldn't have said it better myself,
Even though I totally could have had I not been such a cunt wanting those lines not to go to waste.
but anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Just regrettably a tad held back by some minor technical issues. I mean, even putting the controls aside, I'd say the game would have been much more visceral had the engine used for the destruction and mayhem been a lot more beefed up. Though seeing the frame rate reach new lows as everything explodes is also pretty cool in its own way. Plus, the game is just a sexy-ass motherfucker artistically. There's lavish airship ballrooms, Chinatown, subway stations, strange, dingy ghettos, and Japanese dojos, all completely drenched in thick-as-fuck shadows and fairly striking color palettes. It's rather cool if you ask me. And I quite dig the urban setting mixed with whatever the fuck Graves' aesthetic is supposed to be as well. For a game that's as short and arcadey as it is, they packed in quite a lot of graphical variety, which I guess is pretty fucking cool.
Well, I'd say it's about time for bed. Oh. Yes. You want some of Daddy's man milk first, don't you? Yeah. Have a wee suckle on Mel Gibson's